Would you be the jerk for not giving your daughter a car for a graduation gift and cutting her off financially? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for kicking my brother out of my wedding after he proposed to his girlfriend during the reception? I, 28-year-old female, recently got married to my wonderful husband, 30-year-old male. We had a beautiful wedding that we spent a year planning and saving for. It was a small, intimate ceremony with close family and friends, followed by a reception at a lovely venue. Everything was going perfectly until my older brother, 32-year-old male, decided to propose to his girlfriend, 28-year-old female, during our reception. He didn't just propose quietly either. He made a big scene, getting down on one knee right in the middle of the dance floor, stopping the music, and drawing everyone's attention. It felt like the whole reception shifted from celebrating our marriage to celebrating their engagement. I was stunned and didn't know how to react at first. My husband was visibly upset. I tried to keep my composure, but as the night went on, I grew increasingly frustrated. I pulled him aside and told him that I thought what he did was incredibly disrespectful and selfish. I asked him to leave the reception because I didn't want any more drama. He was shocked and said I was overreacting and that it was just a spur-of-the-moment thing. His girlfriend looked embarrassed, and they both left. Now, my family is divided. Some of them think I was right to stand up for myself, while others think I overreacted and should have just let it go. My brother has since apologized, but I can't shake the feeling of having my special day overshadowed. Am I the jerk for kicking my brother out of my wedding after he proposed during our reception? If it were up to me, I would say that OP's not the jerk. For as obvious of an unwritten rule as it should be to not propose at somebody else's wedding without complete and total express permission, it sure seems to happen a lot with how many posts pop up about it. Urban Yeti Zero wrote, "Not the jerk. Absolutely disgusting and disrespectful of anyone to propose at someone else's wedding. Doubly so for a direct family member. Was there a ring? If so, that's not spur of the moment, that was 100% planned by him. This isn't a quick apology and move on. A wedding day is supposed to be a singularly special occasion for you and your new spouse and all your friends and family to celebrate. Congrats on your wedding. I hope the rest of your evening returned to form." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for not taking the blame for unknowingly breaking a mom's rules for her kid? My 41-year-old female daughter, 15, had a sleepover a couple of days ago with 4 of her friends. From what I observed, the girls had a lot of fun together and were all very respectful of each other, my husband and I. Most of the girls' parents thanked me and my husband for hosting and said positive things, but one texted me a list of all the things I did wrong. The first thing that upset this mom was the fact that my daughter and her friends went swimming in our backyard pool. When the sleepover invites were sent out via text message, I asked the moms if they were okay with their girls going swimming. All of them said yes or that's okay with me, except for the complaining mom, who simply liked my text. I assumed this meant yes. I wouldn't have allowed this had the girls not been forced to pass a swimming safety unit, which included a swim test at the end for their PE class. Additionally, my husband completed a lifeguarding course from the Red Cross and passed with flying colors. The mom's second issue was the food the girls ate, which she deemed unhealthy. I, however, did not see an issue with this because I think eating junk at sleepovers is okay. The next issue was the movie the girls watched after dinner. Since some of the girls are 14 and others are 15, we told them no R-rated movies, but other than that, it was up to them. They ended up choosing The Fault in Our Stars, which the complainer deemed inappropriate. The final thing she was mad about was the fact that the girls didn't actually go to sleep until midnight. As a mom myself, I understand because I want my daughter to get enough sleep. However, both my husband and I do think that sleepovers are a time when it's okay to stay up late, provided the kids let the parents sleep, which my daughter and her friends did. Additionally, the girls woke up at 8:30, meaning they got about 8.5 hours of sleep. I received the complaining mom's text on the day after the sleepover. The text said, "Thank you for having my daughter over. It was generous of you to open up your home and graciously host her. However, I feel that many of your decisions were questionable and inappropriate." She proceeded to list her objections with specific reasons for each one. I then replied, "Please tell your daughter thanks for coming. She was a pleasure to host. I understand your concerns, but considering that you never communicated your expectations or rules, I don't think it's fair to place the blame on me. If we ever do things like this in the future, please make sure to let me know of any restrictions ahead of time. Thank you and have a lovely weekend." She then responded angrily that it was my fault, and when I texted her to say sorry, she didn't respond. Am I the jerk for not taking the blame? Personally, I think OP, as a parent hosting the kids' sleepover, they did brilliantly. They let the kids do their thing, they let the kids do their thing, they let the kids stay up a little late, which, I'm gonna be real, whenever I did any kind of spending the night at other people's houses, we were always just trying to stay up the entire night, so going to bed at midnight, I don't think that's a big deal. I feel bad for the kid because their parent is just crazy restrictive sounding. Like, if they have an issue with going to bed at midnight at a sleepover and watching The Fault in Our Stars, I'm surprised the kid was even allowed to go to the sleepover to begin with. Peony Pony wrote, "Not the jerk. You hosted a normal sleepover for your teenage daughter and her friends. Miss Stick Up the Butt texting you to complain that a bunch of teenagers went swimming, ate junk food, and watched a teen romance movie is ridiculous. I'm surprised she didn't critique what you served for breakfast. She is in a rude awakening when her daughter turns 18 and goes to university. More often than not, the young people who went hog wild had been raised by helicopter parents, who monitored their diet, social media, and every other aspect of their lives. University life was their first real taste of freedom and they embraced it with gusto." Our next story is, am I the jerk for getting into an argument with my husband because he left me during surgery? I'm a 25-year-old female, and my husband, 27, and I have been together for almost 4 years, and we do not have any kids. I had a same-day lumpectomy surgery yesterday. The tumor is not believed to be malignant, but I wanted it out since my mother had breast cancer. My husband got the day off work and drove me. The surgery was delayed for about 3 hours, and my husband was getting impatient. The surgeon finally came in and said she expected the surgery would take an hour. After she left, my husband said he was going to leave the hospital to get lunch when I went under since he hadn't eaten that day. I wanted him to be able to eat and was trying to be brave, but I really didn't want to be left when the surgery was only supposed to be an hour, so I asked him if we could pick up food for him on the way home. He gave me the impression he would stay, and I was wheeled away. Fast forward to 30 minutes later, I was being shaken awake by a nurse who told me I was sick and that she was trying to get in touch with my husband. Apparently, during the surgery, my blood pressure dropped rapidly, and my surgeon was able to get the tumor out in 20 minutes. My blood pressure was 70/30 by the time they got it out, and my lips had turned blue. I was very sick in my room. I was bleeding through my internal stitches, coming in and out of consciousness, and was vomiting. All the while, my nurse was trying to track my husband down. My surgeon called him, but he didn't answer. I'm very thankful for the sweet nurses who took care of me and reassured me. It's the next day now, and I'm very emotional and angry about the whole ordeal. My husband did not apologize and has been incredibly defensive about the whole thing. His explanation for leaving was, "I went out and got lunch, and then I was getting gas because I was low from driving your butt around. The surgery was supposed to be an hour. How was I supposed to know your heart could have stopped?" I told him he had one job, which was to stay with me and tell me what the surgeon says. I could get over him leaving if he was apologetic or remorseful, but I'm shocked at his words and how little he seems to care for someone he claims to love. In his defense, he cared for me last night when we got home, but left today after we argued. I'm sure I'm just still really emotional from anesthesia and being a bit dramatic, but I can't even look at him the same. He is usually attentive and caring, so I am baffled. I'm sure he thought the chances of anything going wrong were slim, but I can't understand his thought process. I sat for hours and hours in waiting rooms during all of my mother's breast cancer procedures and was nervous to even leave for a minute to get food. God forbid I don't have cancer because I don't trust him with anything medical now. Anyway, I'm unsure what I hope to get from writing this to strangers. I just needed to vent. OP's not the jerk here. Very clearly, OP wasn't feeling too great about this going in, and it was a situation where maybe OP didn't expressively say, "I need you to stay for this." But it's one of those things that if it's your partner of 4 years, you should want to stay there until they're just about checked out. And especially when they're getting wheeled into surgery and you know that they're in surgery. I just don't think that their mindset should have been, "Oh, she's going in for a 1-hour surgery. Great, break time." Fwoggy2 wrote, "Married man here, not the OPs. OP, the only reasons I would leave the hospital in a situation like that is if I had to care for our 3-year-old. You said you're childless. He has no leg to stand on. No defense, and I'm deeply shocked on your behalf. His behavior is inexplicable, and as for the comment about driving your butt around, a massive what to that alone. How dare he feel inconvenienced by taking you to the hospital for an operation? Edit for a PS. Hope you get well soon from an internet stranger. Mrs. S. Drinks wrote, "This is what my husband did for me too. I had a total thyroidectomy removal at 4 months postpartum. My surgery was supposed to start at 10, but I didn't get wheeled back till 3. My hubs and baby chilled with me in the pre-op room till it was time. He did leave the hospital to take the baby home for Grammy and Auntie to watch so he could be back for me waking up. Mr. Never answers his phone to numbers he doesn't know, kept his phone next to him on high alert during my surgery. I know he was stressing at the unknowns of the surgery, especially after a rough birth ending in a C-section we just had. He was still there and readily available for calls as needed. OP's husband has no reason for this behavior in my opinion. If he was having a hard time dealing with the situational stress, he should have tapped someone else in to be the point of contact for the hospital while he was out." Editor note here. There's a giant edit at the start of this next story. I'm going to read that at the end because it has a whole bunch of context that just means nothing unless I actually read the story first. Our next story is, am I the jerk for being mad about my nephew beating cancer? My son recently discharged from a long hospital stay, 3.5 months. He was having emergency heart surgery due to ruptured aortic dissection. Rare occurrence in children, they were actually kind of shocked when they found out what's going on. The surgery was 15 hours long because he was bleeding all night long. Almost died. He has a bleeding disorder, also extremely low platelet at the time, and the recovery was very tough. He got infections back to back, sepsis to septic shock and other problems, almost died again, put him on ECMO and ventilator and stayed in the ICU from post-surgery to 2 weeks before discharge. On another hand, one of my nephews recently kicked cancer's butt. We are so proud and grateful, even though it doesn't mean it's all over, but we're happy with this news. As info, my son is also battling cancer. It's been 4 years and he's not in remission yet, not a single time. And we probably would never, he's still on the battle. Last night we were out for dinner together. There was me, my son, my husband, all my family members. They just arrived a night before from my home country. It's a holiday time for schoolers there, so that was our first dinner together. I brought up about my son just being discharged recently after facing a big battle. That was how I phrased it. They were so happy, and my son as well. He's still weak, in pain here and there, but he's overall stable so he can be with us. Then, my sister suddenly said, "And my nephew just beat cancer," and clapping her hands. My family turned away from my son so fast to congratulate them. I don't know. I'm happy for them, for my nephew, but I'm just sad. I can see my son forced his smile seeing them. I just hurt. I'm probably a bad person. It's not really about the attention. I don't know how to explain. I hope any of you understand. I was quiet throughout the dinner, majority of the time. I barely smile. My parents noticed and they seemed not liking my behavior. I know them too well. They were talking about my nephew's cancer treatment in Singapore and their experience there. No one talked to my son. After dinner was over, my mom confronted me through texts, saying, "How can I have that kind of attitude? Why am I mad about my nephew beating cancer?" I told her I wasn't. Apparently, I vomited my true feelings about the situation to her. She called me a jerk and that I just don't like seeing my family being happy, and that I should be grateful. At least my son isn't gone. My sister blocked me, but my other siblings turned out to be on my side. Am I the jerk? Edit. I'm not sure about giving this edit at first, but some people miss the point about them ignoring him. The ignore them is not talking to my son at all after the quick 2 minutes happy celebration they gave to him. They didn't make any eye contact with him. It makes him nervous to talk first, as they acted like he's not there. If you ask, why didn't I start the conversation and instead go quiet? I was sad my son only got 2 minutes attention, a hand and back rub, that's it. I was too busy with my thought and I don't know, they seemed so happy. I just couldn't bring the topic about my son into them. And it isn't like I don't let them be happy and celebrate what my nephew deserves. They already did 2 celebrations before they came to visit. A celebration for achieving remission and a celebration for the bell ring. The documentations are there on the family chat group. I congratulate them and I'm happy for them. When my nephew was first diagnosed, my sister asked me a lot of questions. The cancer types are different, and I'm very happy to answer in helping what I can. Was it too much if I expected that dinner to be my son's turn to get the attention, recognition, and love? Lastly, many of you assumed it was a jealousy, because my nephew is now in remission but my son is not. It is one factor, but what I feel isn't really about the cancer or jealousy of his remission. Rather, it's the sadness because my son wanted to build a relationship with my parents, my siblings, and his cousins. They only met each other in person twice. They don't have the strongest bond, but my son loves them dearly. It's a sadness because that desire is not achieved. I understand we're far away, they're closer, and of course they're already comfortable with each other and know each other so well. But we just want to try. My son just wants to try. That's pathetic when I know that they don't have any effort to be closer to us, but I still hope they'll shower my son with love that he actually deserves to get. I don't think OP's feelings are unjustified in this situation. I do think that it's unfortunate that it is brought up and it kind of distracted the entire group away from really the whole point of why they were gathering together. I think, honestly, it's fair enough that the nephew got addressed and their situation pointed out, but the problem, like OP highlighted, is they never went back to the actual reason they were there. They never went back to engaging OP's son or focusing on them and their challenges. That's particularly messed up. Username 1379 wrote, OP, not the jerk. I think your sister doesn't know how to read a room. She practically interrupted you and didn't give any attention to her nephew. She then had to start talking about her son. I don't think you're mad about your nephew. I think you're ticked at your sister for her crappy timing. She could have said something acknowledging how strong her nephew is for fighting through his battles. She then could have gone into saying something like, it's always hard when our kids have health struggles. I am so grateful for my nephew getting better and for my son beating his cancer. Let's all take a moment and acknowledge how strong both of these boys are. Our next story is, am I the jerk for making my family cancel their vacation because I won't watch their dogs? My parents, 82-year-old male, 75-year-old female, asked if I would help them book a much-needed vacation. They also asked me to do the same for my brother, 43, and sister-in-law, 33, because they wanted to take a family vacation in September. My husband, 46, and I, 41-year-old female, can't afford to go because I'm currently out of a job. Even though this would be the first family vacation I will have ever witnessed and it made me really sad, I said I would of course help. My mom even mentioned to me that in a way it's good because I'd be able to watch my brother's pugs and my parents' chihuahua. Here's the thing about watching the dogs, it's a 24/7 job that requires me to stay at my brother's house. The dogs are wonderful, but very high maintenance. Because of this, I've been telling my brother for nearly 10 years that he needed to hire a dog sitter. Money isn't an issue for him. I've dog sat for them 3 times this past year, varying from 1 to 5 nights. They paid me well, but I do not feel comfortable staying at their house, and I find the round-the-clock care exhausting. My husband and I have 5 cats, and we're no stranger to feeling like our pets are our kids, but we don't have dogs for a reason. Now, I'm supposed to be booking this trip for my brother, but he hasn't even asked me about watching the dogs. Sunday at family dinner, everyone is there except my sister-in-law who was ill. My brother was sitting across from me, so I reach out to hold his hand and say that I love him, I love the pugs, but I can't watch them when they go on vacation and that he needs to get a dog sitter. I said it was just too much to ask me to be trapped at their house for 7 nights, and that I've been asking him to hire a dog sitter for nearly a decade. I even offered suggestions and said that I'll help find someone. He starts to get reactive and says that they won't watch my cats anymore. I said that's fine, we have a cat sitter, but I point out that I asked them if they can help. They, on the other hand, didn't ask me. My brother finally concedes that it is a lot to ask 7 nights and 5 dogs. Excuse me? Yes, 5 dogs, because his mother-in-law apparently was planning to go too. So now added to the mix are 2 Italian greyhounds. I stay calm and gently point out that I felt this way before knowing there were 5 dogs. Can he imagine how I felt? He seemed to understand. By the time I left dinner, there were hugs and kisses and all was well. I knew my brother was upset, but he seemed to understand that I was really proud of putting up boundaries. The next evening, I call my parents to see if they've heard from my brother. Apparently, he called them after we got home from family dinner and was blindsided by me. My sister-in-law was just as upset as him too. They think I'm throwing a tantrum because I can't go on the vacation. Well, yes, that sucks. I told them my real issue is being trapped at their house for 7 nights. Now they're canceling the vacation because I won't watch the dogs. Am I the jerk for telling them I won't do it? Personally, I think OP's clearly not the jerk here, and it's so laughable that they're, instead of getting a dog sitter, going to turn around and just go, alright, you know what, let's just cancel the whole thing. I know my parents are 82 and 75, and who knows, maybe this might be the last real vacation they ever have, but we can't get a dog sitter. We've just gotta throw the towel in. Having Hope 3594 wrote, not the jerk. They are grown people who had plenty of time to find arrangements for their dogs. Didn't they have somebody else to watch the dogs when you all traveled together? Is this a weird ploy to punish you by making you feel guilty or something? Seems reactive. OP responded saying, the only time we've all traveled together was for my brother's wedding, which the dogs came to. This would be an international beach trip which we haven't had in, I guess, over a decade. To be fair, he couldn't go on the last trip in 2015 and I went, but I only had one cat that had no special requirements at the time, so my roommate watched her. So I feel bad for him not being able to go on a family vacation, although it feels self-induced to me at this point, but I am very emotional and I can't tell if my judgment is clouded. This next story is, am I the jerk for going to the police immediately when I found out my parents took out debt in my name? My parents took out credit cards and loans in my name. It was fine when they were paying the bills, but they got behind. I don't have a key to the mailbox, so I never saw the bills or anything. I just finished my 3rd year of university and I was going to move out. That would require me to get a credit check and stuff. My parents freaked out and forbid me from moving out. They said it was stupid that I would waste money on moving out when I could save money living at home. They don't like my boyfriend, so I thought that was their issue, but boy was I wrong. Long story short, I'm about $60,000 in debt because of them. I cannot afford to pay that off. I told them that they needed to clear the debt immediately and change the house rules so my boyfriend could spend the night. They said that they don't have the money to pay the debt and that I could not strong-arm them into changing the rules of their house. I called my auntie and asked if I could please come stay with her for a bit. She let me and asked a lot of questions. Then she showed me a dozen Reddit posts about parents screwing up their kids' futures and kids allowing it. I went to the police and reported it. My parents got arrested and charged. They are furious with me. I know they didn't spend the money on me. I do not know what they did spend it on. I don't care. I feel bad for them, but I'm not letting them freak up my future. Am I the jerk? Maybe there's like a 5% difference if they did show some kind of remorse, care, or maybe even if that $60,000 was spent a little bit more on OP. But like I said, 5% difference. The other 95% would still be, how could you do this to your own kid? They kinda deserved it. It's actually disappointing to see OP kind of open this up with, my parents took out credit cards and loans in my name, and then rationalizing it with, it was fine when they were paying the bills. Poor kid was being taken absolutely advantage of and making their future harder without really knowing. Particular Banana 9149 wrote, not the jerk. It was fine when they were paying the bills. No, it wasn't. It is identity fraud and it is illegal. Put a freeze on your credit and monitor your reports from now on. Tell them you are furious with them as well. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to continue paying for my sister's rent after she went on a trip without telling me? My 28-year-old female, sister 25-year-old female, got laid off about 5 months ago. She's really struggled to find another job in her since, as it's really bad for her field and people are being laid off left and right. She's currently working as a waitress while she looks for a more permanent job, but isn't earning enough to fully cover her rent. I have a pretty well-paying job, and I share rent with my partner, so I offered to help her cover the rent while she looks for another job. She was extremely grateful, and together we agreed on an amount which would allow her to cover rent and also have some money left over for food, travel, etc. It's important to note that her monthly expenses for food, travel, bills, etc. were all provided by her. I didn't have any issues or suspect that anything was amiss. She hates working as a waitress, so I'm confident that she's doing everything in her power to find another job. The last time I saw her, she mentioned that she had picked up a few extra shifts recently so that she can afford to get our parents a nice anniversary gift. so I figured she was basically living paycheck to paycheck. Fast forward to now, and I've just received word from our cousin that my sister is in Paris. When I expressed confusion, my cousin sent me a bunch of screenshots from my sister's Instagram. My sister must have blocked me and my parents on there because none of us could see any of her posts or stories. I was very confused, then angry, because if she is living paycheck to paycheck, how on earth can she afford to go on a trip to Europe? For context, we live in Australia and plane tickets typically cost upwards of $1,000, and that's not accounting for food, hotels, or anything else. I was so ticked that not only has she gone on an expensive trip, she clearly tried to hide it from me. I ended up sending her a few short messages basically saying that I knew she was in Europe and that clearly she doesn't need my help paying rent anymore if she can afford a big trip. She called me and was basically in tears begging me not to cut her off. She said that she's on the trip with her new boyfriend and that he is paying for everything. She insisted that she still needs the money to cover her rent and that she'll have to move if I don't help her. I basically told her that it was her problem now and hung up, which I admit was childish of me, but I was still so mad. I don't know much about her new boyfriend, so maybe he is a millionaire or something, but the fact that she tried to hide it from me sets off alarm bells. I'll obviously have a proper discussion with her when she gets back, but for now, I'm going to block her number. Since then, she's reached out to some other family members who thinks I'm being too harsh and should give her the benefit of the doubt. They all seem to think that I'm going to force her to be out on the streets. It's looking like this will be a whole fiasco once she gets back. I need an outside opinion. Am I the jerk? Update, thanks for all the responses. I decided that at the very least I should let my sister explain herself, so I rang her again after I'd calmed down. She said that the trip was a very last-minute thing and that her boyfriend was already going to Europe and he offered to pay for her plane ticket so she could come along with him, and she felt that it was too good of an offer to pass up. When I asked about other expenses, she told me that he was mostly paying for everything and she only had to contribute a small amount. When I asked her where she got the money for that, she got kinda defensive and said that she had saved some money while working as a waitress and that it wasn't fair that I was judging her for just trying to have a break, and that's why she didn't tell me. I did bring up that he could help her pay rent, but she said that they hadn't been dating for that long and she doesn't feel comfortable asking him. I think he comes from a quite well-off family and she doesn't want to come across like a gold digger. I do get this. I think it would be weird to ask someone you hadn't known for that long. I do believe her for the most part, but I'm still ticked that she didn't tell me and that she clearly did have some money saved that could have been used to contribute to rent. I'm also pretty convinced that the money she said would go towards a gift for our parents also got spent on the trip, which feels a bit scummy. I did stand my ground about no longer paying her rent, but I did agree to discuss it again once she got back. However, I will definitely ask to see her bank statements before I give her a cent more, and if it turns out she's been scamming me, then not only will I not give her any more, but I'll make her pay back what I loaned her. I think OP's not the jerk. I think generally the bottom line here, if they're gonna go to the extent of trying to block you and the immediate people around you who would inform you of her going on said trip, she's got something pretty important that she does not want to communicate with you. I think it's so convenient as heck to be pressed on the issue and turn around and say, oh, well, actually, there's a very good, reasonable explanation. My boyfriend, who's very well off, took me along with him on his trip. Okay, well then why did you hide that all, didn't mention it, and blocked people so that hopefully you could just privately do so? I do not buy that those two things are in any way being consistent with each other. MD Thomas wrote, she said that she's on the trip with her new boyfriend and that he's paying for everything. So assuming this is true, two questions come to mind. Why is her boyfriend not helping her with rent? That vacation money could cover rent while she continues to look for a job. She's unemployed and needs help with rent. Even if the boyfriend is paying for everything, why would she go on vacation? It makes no sense either way. Not the jerk. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not giving my daughter a car for her 16th birthday and cutting her off financially? I, 48-year-old male, have a daughter Lisa, 15-year-old female, from my first marriage. I'm not on particularly good terms with her mother, and Lisa unfortunately became an outlet for her resentment towards me, which ended up souring our relationship massively. Lisa is a good person, but unfortunately she takes after her mom in terms of demeanor, and often acts rude and entitled. A few years ago, I married again. Lisa decided to not attend my wedding, and she said a bunch of hurtful things to my then fiancée, Rosemary, 38-year-old female. Since then, our relationship got even worse. When Rosemary and I welcomed our son a year and a half ago, Lisa sent me a text saying that since I have my perfect baby now, I could stop pestering her and trying to play family with her. It hurt me deeply, and I ended up distancing myself from her, though I kept sending her $100 a month as her allowance. Recently, we had an unplanned addition to our family. Long story short, Rosemary's sister, who wasn't a good parent to start with, terminated her custody rights over her son Blake, 17-year-old male. Rosemary and I decided to take Blake in. Unfortunately, a few years ago, Blake got in a horrible car wreck that left him permanently disabled. Luckily, he can somewhat walk and doesn't need 24/7 assistance around the house, but that's about it. Blake is an amazing person, and he quickly became a part of our family. I decided to give the $100 allowance to Blake instead. He was beyond happy and grateful. I also made a hard decision and gave him my car. It's a 22 Cadillac Escalade, and I was planning on getting rid of it this year anyway, since Lisa is turning 16 in a month and I wanted to gift it to Lisa. Now it's Blake's car and he absolutely loves it. He really needed a car because his mobility issues don't let him get around easily anymore, and it changed his life massively. Of course, Lisa didn't like it. When she realized that she wasn't getting any allowance, she called me and asked what's wrong. It was the first call I received from her in a year, if not more. I explained that now, when my family had expanded, I'm not having enough money. I'll still be sending her mom the child support payments as per court agreement, but she shouldn't expect anything extra. She asked me about the car. Since she knew about my plans on giving her a car, I told her that now the situation changed and I no longer could give her a car. I'll admit, what I said next was probably jerkish of me, since I told her that now I have 2 children to play family with and asked her to stop pestering me. This caused her to blow up completely to the point that she got her mom to call me and scream at me, and so did her new husband. They threatened to sue me. Lisa said she'll go no contact and so on. I just brushed off the threats, especially since Rosemary is a lawyer and I made my peace with poor contact with Lisa years ago. They also managed to write a few mean things to Rosemary and Blake, and this is what got me wondering whether I was a jerk here. So I think OP is the jerk here. Honestly, it sounds like from the get-go they left it to their emotional 15-year-old teenager whose parents just divorced to try and even maintain this relationship, made promises even if it wasn't expressly clear like I am going to give you a car. They sure darn well knew about it. And even in the end, even the smallest individual gestures from OP being the father of Lisa went away and was followed up with, "Now you can stop pestering me, 16-year-old child of mine." It sounds to me like OP's kicking their feet up and smiling that they don't have to hear from Lisa anymore. Congrats, OP, you got what you wanted. No Locksmith 8590 wrote, "You're the jerk, you're the adult, and haven't acted like it for basically her entire life. She was what? 10, 11, 12 when you divorced? She takes after her mom, aka I did absolutely no parenting, and am shocked she acts like the parent who actually raised her. You distanced yourself because a child said something mean. Oh my god, seriously? Will you do the same when your son does the same? Because guess what? No teen has an always positive relationship with their parents. More than likely, your kid will say 1, they hate you, 2, you're ruining their life, 3, they didn't choose to be born or something similar. So you're just gonna dip when he gets to that stage? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.